I'm Annabelle Daniel, the Chief Executive Officer of Women's Community Shelters, and welcome to the third instalment of our End of Financial Year series, where we talk about the 4 pillars of the work that Women's Community Shelters does to help build an Australia that is safe, secure, supported and equal for all women. And today I'd like to introduce to you our Chief Operating Officer, Simone Parsons. And Simone has been both the expert and the architect of our transitional housing programs, which we'll talk to you about today. And it's that very important post-crisis support through safe housing that really helps women get back on their feet. So, Sim, tell us about how our Pathways Home program came about.
Absolutely. Pathways Home was created through a partnership with PACE Foundation, Women's Community Shelters and Bridge Housing, and it was a conversation that really hit upon 3 key things: expertise, demand and supply. So expertise being each of the 3 partners bringing what it does best to the picture. Demand being the fact that we desperately needed transitional accommodation for our women and children who are exiting crisis services and needing a next step in their journey, one that was safe and secure and continued to provide some support. And supply, and the supply was some underutilised properties that the PACE Foundation had at that time that they were willing to make available to us free of charge for the social purpose of providing secure accommodation for women. And from that very foundational project, we've grown the Pathways Home project, which has just expanded immensely into providing accommodation for over 100 women and children in 2020.
And so we started Pathways Home in 2018, and it's grown from about 2,500 bed nights in that first year to how many now?
So in the last year of our statistics that are captured up to date, we've provided over 25,000 bed nights for women and children in transitional accommodation. The Meanwhile Use properties have also provided some accommodation for our women and children who are in shelter. So it's an amazing contribution from our housing partners and developers and owners.
And one of the things that's so important about the transitional housing is that it provides the ongoing support to women and children through contact with our outreach caseworkers who are based in the shelters but will continue to work with women and children to support them to ensure that they're building the future that they want. It provides that safe roof for so much longer to give them that assurance. And we get to work with some really non-traditional partners who haven't often been in our kind of space before, and I think that's been a real hallmark of this program and the architecture that Simone's built around that. And tell us a little bit about our special over 50s projects.
Absolutely. So in the last 2 years we've opened Beecroft House and Mossman House. Both of those projects are in partnership with Twilight Aged Care, so a really seminal project for us that allowed us to tap into a really fundamental need and a growing need of women over the age of 55 who are financially vulnerable and therefore at risk of homelessness. And what those projects have enabled us to do is to provide accommodation now for over 35 women. I think we're approaching 40 women across those 2 projects. We're seeing exits from Beecroft House for women into community housing, into social housing and into private rental, and we'll continue to facilitate those pathways. What those projects have really enabled us to do is to connect with women who may not even realise that they are eligible for social housing support. It's enabled us to provide the casework support that assists women to really get their affairs in order, that make the next steps in their journey just more secure and provide just a little bit more of that capacity and space for them to thrive, which has been a really excellent outcome.
And I think one of the other really important things to note that our donors and supporters might be interested in is this project is fully philanthropically funded, both through donor contributions through our outreach program, but also through our generous landlords. So there's been a heap of ways for people to get involved in this to help support us, to support the women and children that we work with, to really build that important next step. So that is the the third part of what we do to build in Australia, our post-crisis support, and really happy to bring Simone Parsons, our Chief Operating Officer, on board to talk to you about it today. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're coming up to the end of the financial year, and if you're still in a position where you're looking to make your end of financial year contribution, we'd really welcome your support at Women's Community Shelters. Thank you very much.